Chapter 7. The Second Reunion. The first friends you make are said to last a lifetime, to be forever and never die, but what happens when that friend becomes someone you no longer know? Like a fleeting memory, time is cruel, it turns people into someone they don't know. A mere image is all that is left of them. For Urza, that's exactly what happened as she watched her former childhood friend Jelal prepare an attack to finish her, and her teammate Natsu Dragneel off once and for all. She gritted her teeth, this was not the Jelal she knew. And exhaustion ate at her, she could do nothing. Natsu too looked on helplessly. He could think of nothing to counter the attack in front of him. He watched as thoughts ran through his mind. Is that it? A black spiral projection formed in Jelal's hand. Like a small black hole, he hurled it at the two people below him, and with unmatched speed, the black space made its way to a gasping Urza and Natsu. Urza's eyes widened and she gritted her teeth. She cried out as a figure blocked the shot. "Simon, don't!" There was an explosion as Jelal watched. He watched as the dust settled and two new figures appeared, blocking the attack. His eyes widened as he saw who it was. So did the three figures behind him. "You!" gasped Jelal, his face had gone deathly pale as if he had seen a ghost. The other members behind the figure did not see the faces. "Who are you?" stuttered Simon. They paid him no attention as they looked at their opponent. Their cloaks remained still. They wore black cloaks with a hood. Both carried a sword, one person a black katana with a black blade, and the other person an elegant sword decorated with a white rose. "Didn't I tell you that if you touch a hair on my daughter's head, you will never see the light of day again, Seagrain?" sounded the angry voice of a woman who was very familiar to Natsu and Urza. Natsu jumped up when he recognized the voice. He was pleased and a little disappointed at her late arrival. Ezra looked on in shock, not a word coming out of her mouth as she listened to the conversation in front of her. "You have overstepped your bounds, Jelal," the other voice finished. This is impossible. How did you escape?" cried Jelal. "You should be dead." Rimuru ignored him as he turned his head to the fighters behind him. "Natsu, Urza retreat." "Rimuru," blinked Natsu, "I'm not going anywhere. That guy made Urza cry, and there's no way I'm leaving without defeating that guy," yelled Natsu. "And when I'm done with him, you're next, Rimuru. You owe me a fight." "Enough of your proclamations," Rimuru almost snarled at Natsu, but forced himself to be patient. "This tower is designed to blow up in 3 minutes, retreat." "What?" shouted Jelal, "you're bluffing." Rimuru stared at him calmly. "Your fight with them is over, but it starts with me now." "Rimuru. I'll fight him." "Leave him to me," shouted Natsu. "Go, if you seek death you can seek it from me," Luminous declared in a calm but angry voice. "No. This time you will come back with us," shouted Natsu. "You left without telling us, I will not leave you here alone. I'm taking you back with us. We'll be right behind you, now go," said Rimuru as Jelal gritted his teeth in anger and frustration. "We are not going. Don't you hear? I will fight with you," shouted Natsu defiantly. Simon watched, he knew they should have fled when these strangers bought them time. He put a hand on Natsu's shoulder. "Natsu, let's go, I know these two are serious, don't get in their way," Simon said as he pulled Natsu. "What, hey Rimuru, Luminous, we are not done yet, if you don't come back I will find you and drag you back," yelled Natsu. Rimuru just smiled as he kept his gaze on Jelal. "Urza, come on," Simon pleaded, but Urza did not respond, instead continuing to stare at her adoptive parents as emotions raged within her. "My tower, I spent 8 years building it," muttered Jelal, who soon became angry. Unforgivable. The pair's eyes flashed briefly in surprise as they saw Jelal form his hands into an X above his head. "Urutarisu." Rimuru saw the black orb coming towards him, but what surprised him was the trajectory. It was not aimed at him. It was aimed at Natsu. Rimuru disappeared with a teleportation and appeared behind Natsu and Urza. He activated his ultimate skill, Gluttonous King Beelzebub, to devour the attack. Shortly after, Natsu, Urza and Simon disappeared. Impossible. "I cannot be defeated," shouted Jelal as he threw a lightning bolt at Luminous, but she easily dodged it. "I will create a land of freedom." Zarif called softly to me, through the pain and fear. He asked me if I wanted true freedom. That's right, I am the only one who can feel Zarif's presence. I am the chosen one. Together with Zarif, I will create a nation of true freedom. Then he jumped up and flew over the tower. Rimuru and Luminous flew after him. "Dear, the individual Jelal Fernandez is controlled by a higher power. So I see it is as I thought. Do you have a solution, Seal? Pull him into your imaginary space." Jelal charged towards Rimuru. By the acceleration, Jelal was so slow that Rimuru could have flown across the entire world once. When Jelal was near him, he sucked Jelal into his imaginary space. "It's over," declared Rimuru. Jelal's eyes widened as he looked around, only darkness covered the surroundings. "Where am I? Show yourself," cried Jelal as he looked around frantically for Rimuru. Then he looked into the distance when he saw a figure with red eyes staring at him. He backed away fearfully. She snapped her fingers, causing Jelal to be bound by chains. She slowly approached him and broke control. At the same time, the tower exploded while Luminous and Rimuru flew out of the blast radius, relaxed. Natsu, however, did not notice. "Rimuru, Luminous, Simon, no. No. I won't let you." Natsu shouted as he tried to run back, only to realize that his wounds were taking all his strength. "What am I going to tell Urza now?" Rimuru Pav. On the way to the mainland, a raft was floating on the sea. I landed on it and took Jelal out of my imaginary space. Where am I?" asked a now conscious Jelal Ezra. He mumbled as he slowly stood up. He backed away when he saw us beside him. "Who are you?" "Stay away from me," shouted Jelal, backing away. "Our identity is none of your business, but your identity is," Lumi's voice rang out. "What? My identity? Just who am I?" asked Jelal as he looked up at Lumi. "Control magic has the side effect of erasing memories." I paid him no more attention. As we slowly got up, I gave Jelal some more jewels and got ready to leave with Lumi. "Wait. Tell me who I am," shouted Jelal and reached out his hand to us. I stopped and sighed. "Jelal Fernandez. What? That's your name. Live your life with the prospect of finding peace and atoning for your sins. Come to me when you realize who you are," I said. Then I and Lumi flew to the mainland, ignoring Jelal's cries for help. Third Pav. Where am I?" Ezra whispered as her eyes slowly opened. "Urza." Ezra turned her head to the side and saw 3 to 4 people running towards her. "Thank God you're okay. Don't worry us like that, damn it." "What's going on?" muttered a confused Urza. She saw her friends running towards her, the water of the sea splashing on them as they rushed towards her. She shook her head as the blur of her vision disappeared. "I alive?" Urza asked in confusion as she looked up and saw her savior. "Natsu, why are you crying?" Natsu knelt in front of Urza. "Don't ever do that again, never again," cried Natsu. "Natsu? I won't," said Urza as she caressed Natsu's cheek, a whisper reaching Urza's ear as her eyes widened. "I'm sorry." "Natsu, what? What are you sorry for?" asked Urza as she hugged him and let him cry on her. "I promised you that I would bring her back. I failed," murmured a crying Natsu. Urza almost stopped as if she had been shot. Her eyes widened at what Natsu was saying. "They were within reach, I'm sorry," cried Natsu, while Urza remained motionless. Then she looked behind Natsu at the spiraling vortex that finally subsided. "Why do you always do this?" thought Urza sadly, pushing them both out of her thoughts. "Natsu, don't worry, I'm sure they will reappear sooner or later," Gray said. "The two won't die so easily." "Yeah, I guess you're right," Natsu muttered. "Fairy tale, I can't imagine a world without my comrades," Urza whispered. "That goes for all of us," whispered Natsu. "You're a member of Fairy Tale, you're one of us, and we weren't going to let anyone take you away from us." "That's right," Lucy nodded, signaling her agreement. "All of you." Urza closed her eyes and smiled. "Thank you, that's right, I don't have to die for the sake of my comrades, I must live for their sake. Because that is the only way to a happy future," Ezra thought as tears flowed from her eyes. "I know you are out there, I will see you again." The next day, Fiore Southern Beach Hotel. "I have caused you all so much trouble in this incident," Urza spoke. "Please accept my apologies." "Will you stop? You're saying the same thing again." "It's okay," Lucy said as she waved her right hand, silencing the smiling Urza. "So what happened to the Phantom Lord's girl?" asked Urza, trying to change the subject. "Juvia? Oh, she's already on her way back," Gray replied. "She said she wanted to join Fairy Tale as soon as possible, so she ran off to find the old man." "I see, I heard she helped us a lot, so I would have liked to be there to support her," but Ezra pondered. "But?" a voice asked as the door slowly opened to reveal none other than Urza's parents. Gray's eyes widened as he saw Rimuru and Luminous enter the room. Lucy looked confused as she wondered who the two could be. Urza was speechless for the third time this week and jumped into her parents' arms, letting her tears flow. After a few minutes, she calmed down and snuggled against Rimuru's chest. Lucy didn't know what to make of the sight. "Where the hell have you been for the last year?" exclaimed Gray. Rimuru and Luminous had a confused look on their faces. "I trusted Gildarts to pass on the information to you, didn't he?" asked Rimuru. "He didn't tell us anything. He was with us for about 4 months, and then he left," exclaimed Gray. Ezra stopped him. "He did," she whispered. "He asked me to tell the rest of the guild, I didn't pass it on," said Urza. "I apologize." "Urza," stuttered Gray. "It's okay," Rimuru continued after a short pause, "you've grown stronger in the time I haven't seen you." She had a happy smile on her face. Lucy still did not know who the people in front of her were. "Now you owe me an explanation. How the hell did you tame that dragon?" Luminous giggled in the background. "Isn't it obvious? I mean, just think of my 2 sisters and their strength. Besides, you know how strong I am." "Still, it's not customary to tame a dragon," posted Urza. "Hey Gray? Who are those 2?" whispered Lucy to Gray. "They're Urza's parents," Gray replied. "They're also called the Dragondamon pair or something like that." "You mean that's the Dragomondamon pair and they're Urza's parents?" asked Lucy in shock. "Yep. Her father is so handsome. He's even in the magazine for the top 10 handsome mages, but they never got a picture of him," she squealed with delight. "Wha?" asked a confused Gray. "We're sorry we weren't with you last year, but we'll return to the guild with you. We just have to wait for Natsu to wake up," Luminous said. Ezra beamed at that sentence. "Oi Natsu, wake up, Rimuru is here, he wants to fight you," Gray said as he nudged Natsu with an object. "Why, Rimuru is here? Fight me!" shouted Natsu, standing up as if by magic. Rimuru sighed as Natsu pointed at him. "When we return to the guild, I will fight you," replied Rimuru. Natsu, startled, shook the tiredness from his eyes and rubbed his eyes with his hands as he looked at Rimuru again. It's you!" cried Natsu joyfully, jumping towards Rimuru and hugging him fiercely. "Are you training me and Ray again?" "Maybe, I will ask Velgrind and Velzard." After Rimuru managed to free himself from Natsu's grip, Urza and Luminous hugged him and leaned on him until they left to go back to the guild. Chapter 8. Back in the guild. No way," cried Natsu, pointing to the building in front of him. "The guild is fine," Lucy beamed. "Looks like a castle now," added Gray as they walked through the guild gate. Urza accompanied them and was impressed that the construction work on the guild had been completed. "Hey, guys, you're back," greeted Max as he approached them. "Have you guys checked out the new guild yet? We have a lot of new things going on." "Oh?" asked Ezra. "For starters, we now have an open-air cafe, and we have shops too. Look at this, fairy tale t-shirts, mugs, and we've got toys too, look here," explained an excited Max as he led them to the action figures. Lucy looked crestfallen as she looked at her figure. "It just doesn't feel the same," muttered Natsu as he crossed his arms over his chest and looked at everything skeptically. He was ignored when Max brought her in. "We even have a pool in the back of the guild now, but the best thing about this new guild is that everyone is allowed on the 2nd floor now, but of course, you have to be S rank to join a mission, or at least have an S rank mage as a companion," Max explained. "It still doesn't feel the same," Natsu muttered as he looked around and eyed everything in the new guild skeptically. "Even the waitresses have cool uniforms now," Max said as he pointed to the waitress who. "Bunny costumes?" asked Lucy incredulously. Ezra looked at her, composure etched on her features. "It seems they tried to copy my Nico armor suit, but they didn't succeed, so they chose this one." "Nico armor?" asked Lucy desperately, pointing at Urza. Ezra looked at her calmly. "Fufufui Shuna and Xian could use love as a cosplay doll again," Luminous grinned. Rimuru exhaled in defeat. While Urza looked around for the master. Lucy sweated. What woman would use her husband as a cosplay doll? "Who is Xian and Shuna anyway?" asked Lucy. "2 of my comrades," answered Rimuru. "What are you doing here?" exclaimed Natsu, staring at a figure. "Gadgil," muttered Gray. Lucy backed away as she watched the figure, a little fear etched in her. "Gadgil, why are you here?" asked Urza as she looked at him. Gadgil averted his gaze from them. "Now answer me," cried Natsu. "Calm down, Natsu," Makarov said as he walked towards the young dragon slayer. "I asked him to join our guild after Juvia joined too, she brought him along," explained Makarov with a smile. "Gray-sama, Juvia is so sorry. Gadgil was always very lonely in our previous guild. That's why Juvia couldn't bear to leave him alone," pleaded Juvia behind Gray. "Hey, I don't care, one guild is as good as another," Gadgil muttered. "What was that, you bum?" said Natsu. "If you try anything, you're finished," Gray declared. Master, if that is your wish, then I will go along with it, but it would be wise to have him watched, said Urza. Makarov said nothing but just watched. At the sides of the guild, two figures stood staring at the newcomer, Jet, and Roy would not forgive Gadgiel for what he had done. Hey, guys, calm down. Marahan is going to sing. Shouted Warren as the lights went out, everyone took their places, and then the curtain opened to reveal Marahan with a guitar, standing with one leg on a chair. Then she began to sing a melodious song, and everyone fell silent except for Natsu, who continued to mumble. It still doesn't feel the same, muttered Natsu, but was quickly silenced by Gadgiel, who stepped on Natsu's foot and grinned. Natsu stood up in a rage, shouted at Gadgiel, and started a fight. Oh Natsu! Shouted Gray as he stood up and pulled up his right sleeve. What he didn't realize was that he had accidentally knocked the cake out of Urza's hand, sending her into a sudden depression. You idiots! Shut up and listen to Mirani sing! Shouted Elfman as he accidentally stepped on Ezra's strawberry cake. Shut up! Shouted Urza, kicking Elfman right in the face, sending him flying across the guild hall. A brawl broke out shortly afterward, which Marahan watched curiously and Lucy sighed. Lumi? She just nodded. Rimuru and Luminous walked up to Natsu and Gadgiel and flung them out of the guild. Then they went to Urza, Luminous hugged Urza, and Rimuru gave her a new strawberry cake. That's the fairy tale I know, smiled Lucy. Let's rock! Shouted Marahan as she magically transformed into a rock star outfit. Hey, who do you think you are? You blue hairy bitch? Shouted Gadgiel. The whole guild fell silent. Everyone thought Rimuru was going to dismember the whole guild into its parts, even Luminous and Urza had to restrain themselves. Rimuru just patted their heads and called out, Mira, keep playing. Besides, I am a man. This brought the mood back into the guild. You should be glad he didn't put you in the infirmary. Laughed Natsu. I can't believe they're back, added a smiling Marahan. After she had played. Yeah, it has been a while, Elzak smiled. I guess you could say that, Biska added. Now that they're back, no one will dare harm Fairy Tail, Macau shouted. You're getting ahead of yourself, Macau. It's not like they're the only members in the guild, said Wackup. But still, it's great that they're back, said Droy. I'll drink to that, Kana said with a smile. Gray-sama? Who are those two? Asked Juvia. The man is impossibly handsome. Gray groaned, not again, first Lucy and now her few. Then Gray turned to her, but not as handsome as you, Gray-sama. Gray groaned again but calmed down and explained to Juvia who they were. Oya, Chibi, Gadgiel asked, standing next to Levi, huh? Who are those two? Asked Gadgiel as Levi looked at him in surprise, you don't know who they are? Gadgiel shook his head, indicating that he didn't know. Levi looked speechless, as did some of the others in the guild, you don't know? Gadgiel became agitated, of course I don't know, that's why I asked, damn it. Shouted Gadgiel. Shut up, Gadgiel. Shouted Gray. Those two are Fairy Tail's strongest mages next to Gildert's, Marahan explained on stage. Gadgiel's eyes widened in disbelief. They are also Urza's parents, Natsu added as he nodded his head sagely. Gadgiel looked at Urza confirmingly, and when Urza met Gadgiel's gaze, she just nodded her head. He then met the white-haired woman's gaze briefly and then her husband's, unable to withstand either gaze for long. I'd better be careful dealing with her now, tch, Salamander is my only concern, I will beat him to a pulp. I guess you'll recognize them by their titles, they're called Dragondamonpair, Levi explained. And at that very moment, all activity in Gadgiel's body ceased. Those are the two that Master Oze warned me about, no wonder the blow was so strong. Thought a stunned Gadgiel. Heh. Gadgiel is scared like a little cat, Natsu giggled, while Happy agreed with him, yes. Urusai. Salamander. Just because that Dragondamonpair is here doesn't mean you can hide behind her skirt. Shouted Gadgiel as he formed his hand into a fist. You shut your mouth. I do not need to hide behind them. Heh. I've already defeated you. Said a smug Natsu. What was that? You only won because of that stupid girl over there. Said Gadgiel, pointing at Lucy. Hey. Lucy scolded. But I still beat you. Said Natsu smugly. Gadgiel let out a frustrated growl as he lunged at Natsu and Natsu lunged at him. As their hands formed into fists, they were both stopped by Rimuru, who grabbed hold of their wrists. What an insane speed, Gadgiel thought. Can you stop making so much noise? Rimuru asked as he let go of both their hands. Gadgiel clutched his wrist and rubbed it to ease the pain. Then Rimuru turned his gaze to Natsu. Natsu said Rimuru in a monotone voice. Natsu swallowed. Do I make myself clear? Hi Rimuru, Natsu muttered, but he started it. The guild members were sweating over Natsu's childishness. Rimuru then looked at Natsu's alleged attacker. We couldn't introduce each other properly just now, you to Gadgil Red Fox, a former member of the Phantom Lord Guild? Asked Rimuru as he looked at Gadgil. Yes, what if I am? Asked Gadgil, feeling a little threatened. Behind Rimuru, Natsu made hand signals and a silly face to provoke Gadgil. Natsu, that's enough, Rimuru said as Natsu slumped down. Since you and Natsu are the same in nature, you will both accompany me and Lumi on a mission tomorrow. Rimuru, there will be an interview for the whole guild tomorrow, I expect you to stay too, came the voice of Makarov. Rimuru did not look at Makarov as he gave Gadgil a look. No way. Why do I have to go with him? Complained Natsu. He even destroyed the old guild. That's water under the bridge, you should consider him a comrade now, Rimuru said. Good, agreed Natsu. Rimuru looked at Natsu once more and then walked towards Makarov with Luminous. Rimuru looked at him once and Makarov knew what he wanted. Makarov then led Rimuru and Luminous to the guild's meeting place. Everyone watched as Makarov, Rimuru, and Luminous moved towards the meeting place. Rimuru Pav. We sat down and Makarov started talking. I suppose you know what happened while you were away? Asked Makarov, and I nodded my head. As for Gadgil, I asked him to join the guild, but I also told him to keep an eye on my son, Makarov said. The guildmaster of Raventail? Asked Lumi. Right, he has become quite ambitious, said Makarov. Is that also one of the reasons for Laksu's attitude in the guild? Asked Rimuru. I'm afraid so, it's my fault, he thinks he has to make a name for himself and not take over mine, replied Makarov. Gildertz has gone back on a 100-year mission, he decided to take it up again, he said he would come back when he finished it, or if it became too much for him, Makarov explained. I processed everything I was told. We have 2 new members, one is Gadgil and the other is Juvia, she specializes in water. I see. You guys should get ready too. Fantasia will take place next week, smiled Makarov, I suggest you join us. I looked at Lumi for a moment and she nodded. Okay, we'll join you. Third Pav. Do you think they will tell us about their fight with the Black Dragon? There are rumors that they fought him twice, asked Macau curiously. Ezra looked on, she was a little confused as to where they got this information from. Why yes. I'd like to know how they fought that lizard, said Wackup. I should thank them for saving my father, but if I do, they will know too, thought a depressed Kana as her shoulders slumped. I'm just glad they're back. Do you think they'll take us for assignments again like they used to? Asked Jet. I think they will, whispered a happy Levy. I want to work with them again, they were so understanding, I want to show them that I have become stronger. Yes, added Alzak. Slashpix. Rimuru? Asked Alzak as he slowly approached Rimuru, who was sitting near a tree cuddling Luminous. Rimuru looked up and signaled that he was listening. Yes? Can I ask you something? Asked Alzak. Rimuru nodded his head. So, how did you confess your love to your wife? Asked Alzak nervously. I took her out for dinner and confessed my love afterward, Rimuru explained. Thank you. Alzak thanked him. Who is the lucky girl? Asked Luminous. Biska. He left after that. That was a rough description of our love story, love. You could have been a little more specific. I know, but we don't have to go that deep into intimacy. Flashback end. I still haven't told her, Rimuru, but I will, I promise you, thought a determined Alzak. Lucy was skeptical of Rimuru and Luminous though, as they had just appeared out of nowhere, and what caught her attention even more was that they were Urza's parents. Good thing Loke is not here, he would try to get Rimuru to come with him to get a date with the ladies, Droy chortled. So Loke knows about them, huh? I'll ask him about it later, mused Lucy. Then she got up and went to the bar table where Marahan was clearing some glasses. She sat down on one of the chairs when Marahan turned to her. Lucy? Blinked Marahan, what's wrong? Marahan-san, I really don't understand what all the fuss is about, it's like the guild has become even more chaotic since those 2 came back, even Natsu talks about them almost all the time, Lucy said, confused. Lucy, as you know, we are like family to many people in the guild, if not all, and almost everyone here has nowhere else to go, Marahan said with a smile. Lucy listened carefully to her explanation. Rimuru and Luminous came here with Urza about 4 years ago, since then they have taken care of everyone, for they are like older siblings they never had, they have helped all the members improve their skills and abilities. They even go as far as taking members to S-class assignments, Marahan explained. You took people to S-class jobs? But doesn't the master forbid that? Asked Lucy in surprise. Not with Rimuru and Luminous, you can talk to anyone here, they've done at least one job where they went with them, Marahan smiled. Oh, but what do you think of them, Marahan? Asked Lucy. Marahan blinked at her as she stammered, I like them, especially Rimuru, Marahan smiled. Marahan-san, you're blushing. Teased Lucy. I'm not. Denied Marahan as Happy approached them both. That's because Marahan likes Rimuru a lot. Added Happy, every girl in the guild likes Rimuru. I see, muttered Lucy, I wouldn't be surprised if they take you for a job next, Lucy, Marahan added as she washed the glasses. While they were talking, Urza came up to them. I agree, they could take you, Juvia, and Gadgil next because you are new, maybe they want to test your skills, said Urza as she sat down next to Lucy. Really? Asked Lucy in shock. Ezra just nodded, then turned to Marahan. Mira? Why are you blushing? Oh, it's nothing, replied Marahan as she turned back to her work. Ezra watched in confusion as Happy raised her hand, I know what's wrong with Marahan. Lucy raised her hand and slapped Happy, sending him to the floor, don't play with Marahan-san's feelings. I muttered Happy and magically stood up, unfazed by Lucy's slap, what are you? Stop it. Urza became inattentive as she waited for her parents to finish their meeting with the master. Natsu and Gray, on the other hand, were lost in deep contemplation. So how do we do this now? Asked Natsu. The old-fashioned way? That will never work, said Gray. It's the only way. Shouted Natsu. It won't work, you idiot, get that through your head. How many times have we tried this? Asked Gray. How do you think it's going to work? Asked Natsu in exasperation. A calmer approach. Replied Gray. That won't help me. Replied Natsu. Fine. We'll do it your way then. That's fair too. Replied Gray as he finally relented. The other members watched what Gray and Natsu were talking about, and Gadgil slowly watched too. Ready on 3? Asked Gray. Ready. Everyone watched as Ezra got up from the table and sighed at what was to come. Stone. Paper. Scissors. Everyone was sweating at the sight of the two of them fighting. Ha. I won, Gray. Rock beats scissors. Smiled Natsu. TCH, alright, I'll do it next time, said Gray. Don't count on it, added Natsu with a grin. Then he got ready and aimed at the door. Natsu, don't do anything stupid, you know exactly what happened last time, Ezra said from her seat. That was the last time. I'm stronger this time. Grinned Natsu. Ezra sighed as Gray moved away from Natsu. The door opened slowly and several figures came out. This is my chance. Thought Natsu. The roar of the fire dragon. Shouted Natsu as a huge jet of flame came out of his mouth and aimed at his target. Ha, ha, I got him this time, Natsu smiled smugly and rubbed his nose triumphantly. Natsu was trembling with fear when he saw an unharmed Rimuru. Is that all you've learned in the last year? Asked Rimuru skeptically. Pa, shut up. I will show you all my power. Shouted Natsu belligerently. He sprinted towards Rimuru. But Rimuru knocked Natsu out with a simple punch to the pit of his stomach. The faces of the new members were chalk pale. Lucy looked at Rimuru with indescribable fear as he walked with Luminous to his daughter.